Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Drabble, Global Marketing Director at Delta Q Technologies, a member of the Zappi Group of Companies. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone tuning in today for this session, Energy as a Service, Peace of Mind through a Pragmatic and Sustainable Pay-Per-Use Partnership. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Mr. Jean-Francois Marchand, who is the Marketing Director at UgoWork and a seasoned member of the global technology industry. Before we begin, if you have any questions during this session, please add them to the Q&A tab to the top right of your webinar screen, and note that your questions will be sent privately. I'll now disappear behind the scenes and I'll chime back in to facilitate a brief Q&A at the end, answering audience questions in the order they are received. With that said, I would like to hand off to Jean-Francois. The session is now yours.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So again, my name is Jean-Francois, but I can go by JF if that's easier. I'm head of marketing at UgoWork. We're a lithium-ion battery and energy management solution for material handling. So we design, manufacture, and support our products through North America. I am a engineer of background, moved to marketing. I'm the father of a 6-year-old, and I'm passionate about technology, especially the ones that are making a difference in our world. So today we're going to talk about the as-a-service business model and the energy as a service, more in particular, applied to material handling. So you'll see it's really interesting as a concept. And also you'll see that most of you are already familiar with it, probably without knowing. So without further ado, here I go. So you'll probably recognize these things, and you'll see that these are as a service things that you are using every day in our world. So Netflix, Disney, Apple TV, these are all service of streaming. So streaming as a service. Uber, Curb, and Lyft are ride as a service. And another one that is very widely used is meal as a service. So you can see some examples there. So you see where I'm going. So those were examples of the consumer world. Now in the business world, there are other stuff that is as a service. So you probably have an outsourced IT company who's handling your server or even your laptop. So that's IT as a service. Cleaning as a service has been there also forever, and it's widely used unless you have people on the payroll that are doing that for you. And closer to what we're going to talk about today is logistics as a service. So all the 3PLs in the world are actually specialized in what they do and actually outsourced from your business. So why is it that we have so many companies that are specialized in that? So the reasoning is that when you outsource aspects of your business to specialized suppliers, you ensure that your time, your efforts, your skills are used to create value for your own customers. So you rely on those suppliers to deliver the highest standard of quality at the most competitive price point. And that's exactly what you're actually doing for your customers. The concept of anything as a service has been started or emerged in the 60s and 70s, but software as a service is something that really popularized the concept in the early 2000s. And one of the earliest examples of this is Salesforce. So Salesforce is a CRM platform that is offered through the web, and it's allowing users to access their CRM without the need for an installation of servers or maintenance or anything like that. So today you can find pretty much anything as a service, hence the alphabet soup that I put there. Speaking of Salesforce, this is just an example of how successful they've been, how the market adopted their software as a service business model. It's been driving their growth for a while, and a lot of companies embarked in that march too. But it's not only service for software that did that. A lot of other markets did that. So here we have numbers that are coming from Fortune Business. It's showing the global as a service market in North America in billions. So you see that it's ramping up and it's actually accelerating, so that it will reach a very high number in 2030. So that's a 400% growth in less than 10 years. So this is really massive. It's showing that the global market is embracing this trend. On this chart, again, from the same source, you can show that it shows that in 2022, already there was a wide range of verticals in which the as a service products were deployed. So the banking and financial service is the biggest one with 24.7%. And you've got just behind that, the retail and manufacturing, which is quite big as well. So again, we're moving closer to the material handling sector, which I'm part of. So these are numbers for North America. So very interesting. I just want to dip into software as a service first. So from the end user standpoint, the advantage that stands out the most with an as a service product is simplicity. If we take the very common example of software as a service, well, you've got the user who opens a browser or an app on his computer, enters a login and a password, and then it's ready to go, basically. So there might have been some bug fixing or new features introduced since the last time the user logged in, but everything is seamless for the user. But if we go on the other side, in the back end, well, there's a lot going on. So what I just showed is the user enters information, enters a prompt, and then there's a display of the results in the app. But if you look at another layer, then you have all the front end, which is interpreting the requests or the prompts and displays the right information after going into the back end. So in the back end, you've got those web services, you've got database, you've got file systems, and all of that is dynamically interacting with the end user, but the end user doesn't see that. So that's how it works on the software side. All right. So let me ask you this. I've got 3 situations here, and let's ask ourselves what they have in common. So the first one, So you've got the EV charging. So in the case of an EV charging, you've got, if you go in the back end, you've got the dam, you've got power lines, you've got a distribution network, you have maintenance, you have an app probably for the user. In the case of the commercial flight, you've got at the very beginning the turbine engineer, the aircraft designer, the airport fee, the steward, the booking system, customer service. So a lot of there is going on. And the cellular phone, you've got satellites, you got 5G towers, servers, fiber, phone factory, customer service. So a lot of things are happening in the background. So what all of these have in common is a piece of hardware that people use to create value for them. And in exchange for that service, the user will pay a fee that covers for the infrastructure, the wear, product service, and everything that comes with it. So I'm using this as a segue to move into the material handling operation. And I just want to say that in the material handling, a few things are problems or challenges for customers. And we'll see that the as a service model actually handles or addresses those pains. So the first pain or the first area where it hurts in material handling is space. So you need basically more space for your SKUs to grow your pallet storage. So the material handling infrastructure, if you have a battery room like what we see on the picture here, it's causing you pain and challenges. The other one is time. So with a material handling infrastructure, you need to maintain the batteries, maintain the forklift trucks. You have to water lead acid batteries, for example, like what we're seeing there. And also the time is being affected by the performance of the device that you're using. So here, for example, with lead acid infrastructure, you'll have a voltage drop on the battery that affects the performance, and therefore the trucks are moving not as fast as they should. So it's impacting profitability and efficiency. Energy, so managing the energy cost, managing the energy infrastructure. If you're not an expert, then it's hard to optimize all of that. The capital, so making informed decisions on how many trucks you should have, how many batteries you should operate, who should be running them. That's a challenge that we see a lot. The planet, everything regarding the environment. So with ESG criterias nowadays, there are corporate objectives to reduce the CO2 emissions. There's also all the aspect of the low carbon fuel sources. There are credits that exist, but they are different from one state or one province to the next. So it's really hard to handle. You need an expert to manage that, and it's challenging. And finally, the safety aspect of the material handling equipment is challenging. So the user experience and also the handling and the emissions of the batteries is causing challenge. So all of those can be improved with the right solution, with the right partner. And that's why I'm leading to energy as a service in the material handling sector. So the piece of equipment in terms of energy is the battery. So you need to have a link between the grid to the charger and to the battery. So that's the first thing. The energy has to go through. Then that energy is being transformed as it's stored as chemical storage in the battery and then converted back to usable electric power when required and used by the truck for the truck to lift and travel. And through the life of the battery, it has to be maintained. So you've got maintenance that comes into play. You don't want to have a battery running out of power and a truck that is not running because of that. And at the end of life, you also need to handle the end of life of the product. So are you putting it to trash? Are you recycling it? Who's going to take it? Is it being reassigned or responsibly disposed? So that's an expertise that not everybody's business has. And if you're working with a sophisticated system, you might have cloud communication with the battery. So the proactive monitoring, some software service. So we're moving back to the SaaS, the software as a service area. So all in all, that's a lot to manage, and it's probably not your core business to do all that. So a multitude of options are available out there for users, and it's hard to choose between the right one, and it's hard to navigate between all those complexities. So with energy as a service, the approach is that the user purchases an asset or subscribes to a battery service for a fee. And that service may include the battery itself, the charging system, the cloud infrastructure, the software to monitor the usage. There might be also experts to analyze the data and provide recommendations, centralized billing, the maintenance, the support, commissioning, training. So you see there's a lot there. All the way down to the end of life management of the asset. Since the supplier remains the owner of the equipment in the as a service business model, they must continuously maintain the asset in perfect condition. Otherwise, there will be downtime and there won't be revenue for that service. So for the customer, the advantage by paying diligently the energy supply is ensuring the supplier consistently maintains the service. So as a result, you've got a fleet that is always up and running. The energy and the cost saving are achieved. So it's a really long-term and win-win situation for both the provider, which is the battery OEM, and the end user. So if there are forklift dealers in the audience, this is also possible to interface with this business model. This is something we can talk about. So at the end of the day, if the provider is capable of creating and demonstrating enough value, so for the end user, so basically what the end user wants, well, his company will happily pay the monthly subscription fee and renew the contract when the term is reached. So everybody's actually happy, and we have a win-win situation in this case. So this is all about the business model, the energy as a service business model. If, on the other end, the service provider doesn't deliver, well, the end user will stop and turn to another provider. A side effect, if you may, or maybe something anchored in the business philosophy of companies offering as a service, is a hardware product that is aiming for quality. So it will last, basically, because in this scenario, the OEM is actually putting everything up front. The battery will provide a service, and as for as long as possible, and bring back some revenue. So if you have a user who purchases at a low price, but sooner or later the unit will have to be replaced, it means that a new expense and a large carbon footprint to the manufacturer will be imposed to create that new product. So the long-term product and quality product will last longer, so the indicators are on the green. So that's important, and that's usually a side effect of as a service companies. They tend to produce higher quality products. The other thing to consider is the energy efficiency. So you've probably seen that on your phones lately. A quality product is usually more energy efficient or features options to reduce the energy consumption. And on the battery side, it results in a lower utility bill and smaller carbon footprint and a longer life for the battery itself. So this example is by Apple, and basically they learned from the user's daily charging routine so that they can wait to finish charging past 80% just until it's needed. So that concept applies for forklift batteries, and it preserves the battery life, and it also avoids generating peak demand on the network and therefore lowering the electricity bill. So that's something to look out. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that the quality products typically retain better value over time. So this is a very simple example that will talk to everybody, but with automobiles, depending on the brand, there will be a higher residual value that will be gained, and that's linked to the quality and the durability of the product. So with lithium-ion batteries, a good design will result in a controlled wear over time without premature degradation, and the battery will retain a higher residual value. So that's as simple as that. Another thing that is more and more discussed, and that is in the decision criteria of large corporations, is the carbon footprint, or the ESG criteria. So there's a regulation that came into effect in Europe in 2023, and experts are predicting that it will come to America in the upcoming years. It's the battery passport. So the battery passport is something quite complex. I won't go into all the details here because it's a vast topic. But if you have questions, you can reach out. It will be my pleasure. But basically, there are three main functions to the battery passport. The first one being to provide transparency of practices and the impact of the battery along the value chain, to all the relevant stakeholders in the battery value chain. So where was the material, the critical materials mined? Is there any recycled minerals in the product? What's the carbon footprint along the way? The second aspect is creating a framework for benchmarking of single batteries along the ESG criteria by identifying the best and worst in class, as well as providing minimum acceptable standards for a sustainable and responsible battery. And the third aspect is to validate and track the progress towards achieving a pathway towards a sustainable and responsible battery. So basically, you got supplier A, supplier B, and you'll be able to see, okay, where does that battery come from? What's the baggage of ESG that battery has compared to the other one? So for the user, all of that means, okay, back to the time. Do I focus on my core business? Am I creating added value for my customers? Am I experiences risks with the technology that I don't master? So who's owning the risk? Is it me, or is it the OEM who's still owner of the product and providing a service? Is it creating a peace of mind for myself? Am I having a guarantee of uptime? Am I having continuous improvement that can be brought in by the supplier? What's the commitment of the supplier also in our relationship? And in terms of cash or in ROI, can I focus on my CapEx or can I pass that money onto operation expenses and invest the money into value-added initiatives? For the supplier, well, having a good reputation is important. So having happy customers will provide that. Am I going to have a predictable and recurring revenue with my customers? So it's a good thing, and a peace of mind also that you have a commitment with your customers. So by creating constant value, by having many touch points along the way with the relation with your end user, so it's a energy as a service providers provide is the whole life cycle product. Yeah, thank you, Paul. So the energy as a service is handling the battery life cycle. So it goes from mining to refining to the cells. I'm sorry, I'm getting pause here. All good. Okay, sorry. So the cell, the battery itself, the distribution of those products, the charging, the usage, and then the disposal. So in a material handling scenario, what it means is you've got loops. So the energy as a service scheme will introduce those loops into the life cycle. So the first one being the longer use. So by intensifying the use of the product by using data, you can extend the life of the product. Remanufacturing the product also when it comes to the end of the life. So for example, a battery is an enclosure and a lithium pack. So if you can just replace that pack by a new one, you can reuse the enclosure, and that extends the life of the product. And finally, the recycling. So by having a partner who's actually working with recyclers, you can have that as the service. So all of that is contributing to a circular economy. So on that next slide, I've got something complex, but I'll zoom into some of the areas. it's showing the whole scheme of the energy as a service and sustainability. So I'm zooming in onto the mining and the refining. So to produce a battery, you've got the mining of the critical minerals. These are then sent to a refining facility where you've got anodes and separators and cathodes and electrolytes that are being manufactured. Then these are moved to the cell manufacturing company. LG Chem is one of the most common examples. And then those cells are being packed into a usable product. So UgoWork is one example. We do, like I said at the beginning, batteries for material handling applications. So packing, putting it to the enclosure, providing a software and everything. Providing it to the user who will be utilizing the product in a forklift, charging, discharging, and so on. And then you've got the side energy as a service, which is maintaining the system, having the cloud monitoring, the SaaS platform, peak shaving subscription, if that's a thing, the uptime warranty, the payments by kilowatt hour. These are all services that are offered by the energy as a service provider. After that, once the first life of the product has been reached, then you can repurpose the same battery in a lower intensity application or send it to a third life application where it will be sustained for longer. And when you reach the end of the useful life of that battery, then we move on to the recycling bit of the process. So we don't do that at UgoWork. We have partners who specialize in that, but basically they take the worn out lithium cells, put them into what we call spokes. So they kind of shred them. And then there's a separation process using water in which they will separate plastics and metals and what we call black mass. So the black mass is a mix of all the critical minerals that need to be then separated further using an hydrometallurgical process. And by doing that, then you gain back the critical materials that you were having at the beginning when you were mining. And these critical battery materials can then be brought back into the refining process. So we're building that circular economy with that process. So all of that being handled as a full life cycle of the product. So it's very interesting and promising. Yeah, that's where we're leaning. So I hope you learned stuff in this presentation. I just wanted to conclude with a guide for you guys in choosing the right partner. So there are now more than ever partners or providers of lithium-ion batteries for material handling and other services or other products for that matter. Here we put some criterias that are more relevant to material handling applications. And we have a QR code that you can scan right now. It provides a template for that model. I'll come back to the question right after. So by using that template, you can put the different providers, assign a level of importance for every criteria, and it will give you a relative score for your providers. And of course, talk to us if you want to get more information. So that's all I had for you guys today. I'll leave my information there, and we have a few minutes for questions.
Okay. Well, thanks, JF. That's a terrific presentation, and hope the audience that's tuning in found it very educational and insightful. So I got a little bit of time here for some questions from the audience. It's not too late to submit a question. If you do have one, just submit it to the Q&A tab in the top right there. So we have one question. JF, talking about lithium, what do you think the use case is when that justifies the transition from lead acid to lithium? So that's obviously a big consideration for
Yeah,
any OEM looking to make that transition. So what's the use case there?
sure. Well, there's one undeniable fact that I need to disclose. Lithium ion batteries are more expensive upfront than for say a lead acid battery. So that's why there's a typical use case or a trigger where it actually starts to make sense to make that transition. I mentioned at the beginning that there are challenges in the material handling industry: space, energy, time, capital, and safety. So typically, when these are being triggered, they create additional expenses for the operator. And typically, these challenges or these pains will grow exponentially with the intensity of the application of the material handling that you're doing. So, what we see out there is rule of thumb: if you're using your forklifts 2,000 hours a year or more, so typically a shift and a half, 2 shifts, that's when the maintenance kicks in because there's premature wear of the lead acid batteries. That's when you need to use a battery room because you need to swap batteries. And in this case, what we'll do is evaluate the application and perform a total cost of ownership analysis. And typically, we can demonstrate that there's a return on investment for the lithium product. So that the 2,000 hours, kind of a rule of thumb, if you're in that vicinity of application, then there's probably a very good chance that there's a return. Also, aggravating factors: if you're operating in a cold storage environment, or if you're using your batteries in a warm environment, these are factors that are affecting the performance of lead acid, and there's a good chance that lithium will actually do better. So that was a long answer to the question, but the boring answer is that it depends on the application, and that's why you need to partner with somebody who's able to evaluate the application and give you the right answer.
There's not an easy answer to that one, I think, JF. There's definitely a lot of considerations there, and depends on what you're trying to do. But a lot of good reasons and some drawbacks, I think, from
yeah. And just to add up on that, Paul, I think that stresses the fact that lithium ion batteries are not just a consumable. It's a tool that is helping operations. So you need to attack a transition to lithium as an improvement, continuous improvement project for your company, and not just like a line on your budget of consumable. It's really more than that, and that's why.
Yeah, I think from what we see in the space, that often batteries, they're the most expensive line item on your application, but often one of the last things that gets considered in terms of what's the charging and the power behind that, right? So, but it's very important, very costly. Battery health, all that kind of stuff.
The total cost of ownership is what you should be looking at, and also the potential efficiency improvement. So this is something also that will play a huge role into your operation. If by changing to lithium, you're able to ship 10% more pallets per hour because the product is performing better, then that has a huge impact on your balance sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly in material handling, where you have 24/7 operations and stretching out your duty cycles as long as possible. It all adds up at the end of the day. So just one other question, about UgoWork. Before we started the webinar today, I just asked you, a little bit about UgoWork, and you guys, you basically manufacture your own lithium-ion batteries. Do you use engineering as a service in your manufacturing process?
Uh, yes, we do for to some extent. We have a team of engineers. Almost half the company is engineers, actually. We design from the cell level, so we don't manufacture our own cells, but the cell is the baseline of the design of our product. So from the lithium pack to the enclosure, the electrical harnesses, we design our own BMS. And then the engineering process is sometimes helped by companies doing CFD for thermal management or things like that. But we don't offer energy. We don't offer energy. Engineering as a service. If that was the outline
Mm-hmm.
question.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's the last question there that we've received. But again, thank you. Great presentation there. And if you want to get in touch, other questions for JF, here are his contact coordinates, or you want to connect with him on LinkedIn. There it is. But or if you're just curious about the stuff that UgoWork is doing and want to talk a little bit more, reach out to JF, and he can connect you with other parts of his organization. So with that, our session comes to an end. And again, we hope you found it informative and useful. All of our sessions will be recorded, and they'll be provided to all of the registrants for the future of electrification. So you'll get that when it ends in the next few weeks. So you please feel free to share that content amongst your colleagues and your networks. That would be terrific. So once again, thanks again for tuning in and being part of this. And we look forward to seeing you guys again in the future, and wish you all the best. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jeff.
everyone.